Hey, good afternoon, everybody. This is Meredith Lego, and I'm doing a series of videos on Ascension science. Much of the content that I'm actually sharing has come through a connection that I've had with another being called Ascended Master Hilarion, and I've been able to create that connection through quantum entanglement. And when I'm doing it, it's very much like a conversation, if you will, because I don't necessarily allow him to, sort of channel within my body, but essentially I'm creating connection with him, and I'm essentially either hearing content and or feeling the content and essentially writing down material almost in a meditative state, but still, alert. So this would be happening either after I've meditated or even in some cases during meditation, because it comes to me. Sometimes actually I'll be it'll be 2 o'clock in the morning or something like that, and I will have waken up and I start to get the impulse in order to sort of write down content, because content is coming through, sort of like a download. So it happens, different ways. And so basically in the last couple of videos, I started to share about content, about the idea that we've got, within our heart, there's really a portal to create the connection to all that is, and it really comes within what's called our heart center, or our heart chakra, if you will. And that really is the portal to higher, essentially start to go within or fold within for higher states of consciousness. And I expanded upon that through an interesting question that I asked, actually coming from a friend in the last video. And in this particular one, I wanted to sort of go upon it and talk a little bit more about another portal concept, but this time referencing it through what's called a Stargate. And, the term Stargate itself is obviously highly charged, not highly charged, I would say, but, in the kind of everyday nomenclature, most people might think about, hear the term Stargate and think about the movie, the popular movie that came out, I don't know if it was in the 80s or 90s, but it was called Stargate. And then there was obviously a very popular show that came out, a series, that was on TV. And they obviously showed a Stargate as a physical gate that you would go through. From what I understand, there are actual stargates and portals that you can go through, and they're sort of centered across different ley lines or energy centers across the earth. And I've had the experience of actually going through one more in the astral plane. I went through the Stonehenge gate, but and that was an experience. Maybe I'll share it for another time. but in this particular question, I was trying to ask, or this particular session that I did with Hilarion, I was trying to ask Hilarion about what Stargate Ascension is. And the reason I was asking that is that, I obviously was on a journey to understand and then be able to share with others the concept of ascension and the science of ascension. And several videos back, we talked about the stages of ascension, in which you're learning to master different of your body types, and then you kind of essentially move on. But I'd also heard about the concept of actually ascending by walking into stargates. And so I wanted to know about that. So I asked him the question, what is Stargate Ascension? Is it going within, or is it like physically walking through a gate or a portal or something like that? So his answer is that Stargate Ascension is the process of rapid ascension at the molecular construction of all the layered bodies at the same time. So I want to pause there before I go on, because if you're new to the channel, what he's referencing is the layered body system, which includes the physical body, the emotional body, the mental body, and the etheric body. But in addition to that, we do have sort of other sort of bands of consciousness as well. And so what he's saying is that when you're going through Stargate Ascension, it's very rapid in the sense that you're basically, he's saying, it's the ascension of the molecular construction of all of those layered bodies at the same time. So it's, you're working through it fast. The death process usually unfolds with an ascending of each layered body as traumas are released and the vibration slowly rises once again to the in-between energy state. And in this sense, I don't think he means the death process, like the physical body. I think he means a different death process. I didn't ask him, but that's just my intuition. During Stargate Ascension, a flash of vibrational energy increases or occurs simultaneously without the longer awaiting process. This can occur only in the initiate who is already far enough along in the vibration lift process of the lower bodies. The physical vehicle is the most difficult to achieve, for it is the densest in the physical world. Yet, during Stargate Ascension, the body becomes a rainbow of light and frequency. Is there anything to talk about there? So essentially he's saying there's a flash of vibrational, frequency or an increase that occurs simultaneously without the longer waiting process. So I guess that assumes that maybe if, under like a normal ascension, period, it would take you years and years and years, or even lifetimes to sort of go through that change. And in essence, this is happening very, very frequently. And then he also references the concept of the physical body essentially becoming a rainbow of light and frequency. So now maybe that I'd go back up to the topic of death. Maybe it is the death of the physical body now that I'm reading this. I haven't read it in a long time. But essentially, this might be the concept of moving into what's called the rainbow body. So then I asked the question, is it possible to achieve Stargate Ascension now? And his answer is quite simply yes. Any initiate who is dedicated to walk the path can achieve Stargate Ascension. Much work is needed to raise the vibration and frequencies of all the energies or the energy bodies for this to occur. There can be no distortion in the vibrational fields. In the physical body, the initiate already works to be as light as a feather by ingesting food that is of the sun and pure water, both which are blessed with love and light. Limited energies which interact with the physical body occurs, meaning that the initiate limits sex as energies can intertwine. Much happiness is pursued to maintain a positive emotional body. The initiate must learn to walk the neutral path and release all perceptions that create hatred, sorrow, and fear. The mind focuses on visions of the highest possible outcome for the self and all, one of peace, joy, happiness, and grace. The subtle body is assisted with sound vibrations that amplify the vibrations and are further magnified with crystal energy. As this occurs, the molecular structure of the body sings a new song, vibration that creates a form which is not physical. The atoms, electrons, and are reconfigured to a new density of form. Again, this is similar to cymatics. In this case, the sound is generated within the bodies of the being. The frequencies sing out and creates a new form, a transmuted form. And then there was a couple things that came in after this, which kind of had nothing to do with the statement, but he basically said, you were a priest, you remember. And then also said your subtle bodies vibrate at a higher octave. So that was just sort of something that was said to me sort of after this channeling. I don't remember the priest part, but okay. So in this particular, that's obviously a lot of really interesting information. So the first thing, he's saying, look, doing Stargate Ascension, which is obviously very fast ascension, your body's already in a state where you are sort of not eating or holding on to dense energies within your field. So essentially, there's a whole host of different things that we can eat. When we go into any grocery store, you can kind of see the plethora. Some of them are going to be denser and require more energy for your body to consume and break down. So for example, meats, especially red meat, takes a lot of energy for your body to actually break it down. And obviously fishes and chicken and stuff is a lot lighter, but in general, anytime you're dealing with animal food sources, you could be actually consuming the actual energy and the emotional energies that animal has had to go through, or is that sort of locked into the DNA of that particular animal. So not only do we have to deal with our own emotional baggage and our own emotional traumas that we're trying to clear, but when you've gotten to this point, you're limiting the actual consumption of meat because that way you're not consuming the actual energies of the animal as well. In addition to just kind of the other stuff that goes on with eating animals, or why certain vegetarians choose to be vegetarian in the first place. So what he's saying is that obviously, you're ingesting food that is closest to the sun and pure water, and obviously blessing them with love and light, because you're essentially sending your attention of positive energy towards the food and the water. And why that's important, I encourage you to watch some of the previous videos I've done, but if you don't have time, look into the research done by Dr. I forget his first name, but his last name is Matsui. It's Dr. Matsui Emoto. And essentially, he did studies that of kind of what happens to food and to water based upon different intentions that are being directed, or different intentions, which really are energies. If remember, energy and emotion, intention and emotion really are energies. So you're directing different energies that are vibrating at different frequencies towards food and water, can actually cause very unstructured energy or very pure crystallized energy. And so when you're blessing your food with love and light, you're helping to essentially crystallize that energy of that food and that water into a more of a pure form of energy. And you can see it with the studies that he's done. There's no doubt about it. So he also says, look, limited energies, again, for the kind of physical body, limited energies with which interact with the physical body occurs, meaning that the initiate limits sex as an energy can intertwine. Now, I'm not encouraging anybody to all of a sudden become celibate, but in this particular case, when you're sort of interacting and in a sexual way with different people, you can be actually interacting with their energy body as a whole. And so you just want to be mindful of the energy bodies of who you're interacting with, because it essentially can start to have an interplay with your own energy body, unless you're really good at understanding how to protect yourself essentially in that way. Not only just your physical body protection, but also protect your energetic body as well. And then from an emotional perspective, you're very much in a place of vibrating at a higher frequency of just higher energies, and those tend to be more associated with emotions around love and happiness, and obviously are walking more of a neutral path by taking an observer view. So, anytime there's situations going on, you don't necessarily have judgment, but you're just sort of observing and understanding, the implications of the situation, but not getting hugely emotionally invested in the moment. Because by doing that, you're not locking your own energy into a certain vibrational frequency, and you're taking control of your emotional energy. So he's saying that essentially when all of those things start to line up, you can be in a situation of going into Stargate Ascension. Now, I don't know if that's something that, most humans can go, I guess most, obviously what I'm saying, anybody can go through this. Have we seen anybody go through this? I've obviously heard stories of, certain beings going through what's called rainbow body. So essentially that probably could be Stargate Ascension. So that was his answer, basically. The last thing that he did talk about, and he got into this quite in detail, was the idea of the molecular structure of the body singing a new song. And so, again, everything is energy. And energy really starts to take form, because as it's vibrating, it's essentially, giving off a certain sound frequency. And the sound frequency is actually what starts to manifest form. And again, that goes to the whole 1.0 series of videos that I did, in which he kind of goes into a lot of detail of how that happens, but essentially uses the whole concept of cymatics to show how that happens. So again, cymatics is a good way of showing how sound frequency can actually create form or patterns in matter. And I'm not going to go into it, but I've explained it in past videos. And then also, you can do your own Google searching on cymatics, which is spelled Cymatics, and just watch some videos showing how sound actually can create the formation of patterns within physical reality. So as that's happening, your being, your very being, and all the bodies are starting to sing at a different vibrational level or a different octave. And by doing that, you start to transmute your form into a new density. So that's kind of interesting and fun stuff. So, obviously something that I'm trying to work on. And I know others in this world are trying to work on. So I just wanted to share that perspective. And with that, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.